Hey everybody, it's Kathryn Perry, the Big Vision Coach, and I'm jumping on right quick today with a quick teaching. This is actually going to, I'm saying quick, I've made some notes for you and we're going to go through them, but this talk that I wanted to share with you today was prompted by a conversation I had with a client yesterday, and it's this. I'm not going to, without talking about specifically about my client situation, but a lot of people are going through this, and you may be going through this right now. And it's that you could be finding yourself in a situation where it seems like you have very little control outside of your circumstances, right? Like you want to make a change. Like, let's say right now, a lot of people are not working, or their business is in a big slump because of what's happening with the global pandemic. There's been so many changes on so many different levels, but at the same time, there's been some opportunities that have opened up for people. But there could be some life circumstances, like some things happening in your family or your health, could have happened in your career. And it could be that you don't see right now what choices you have. You feel stuck and you could feel frustrated and you don't know how to get out of it because it just seems unsurmountable. And I'm going to share with you the number one thing that stops most people that no one is talking about. And we're going to go into that today. But first, I'm Kathryn Perry, the Big Vision Coach, and welcome to my channel. And I have been doing this type of business since, the late 90s. And that is working with people who have a big dream or a vision, but they haven't been able to quite articulate it. So I help them find that vision, but more importantly, how to make that big vision a reality. And who I find that I naturally work with and gravitate to are people who they tend to be at a crossroads in life. And right now, a lot of the people I'm working with are in that age 50 plus, though I do have some clients that are younger. They're in a big, major life change. They know they want their life to improve, but they're not sure how to get there. They can't get out of the way in their own thinking. They don't know how to create the strategies, and they don't have the support they need in order to get through those rough patches. So my job is to help them clarify the vision, develop the strategy, and to be that support and feedback system for them so that they can move through the rough patches, but more importantly, take advantage of those sweet spots so they can get to where they want to go faster. So let's dive right in. If you are watching by Facebook, be sure and like, I think go to StreamYard and you like this if you want to post some comments. I did not advertise that I was doing this. And if you're on YouTube, be sure and like this and subscribe to my channel because I publish new content every Tuesday. And then I always put in a whole lot of extra teachings. So let me go over to my screen. And we're just going to go there. I've got some notes here. And if you stay with me to the end of the broadcast, if you will stay with me and you message me at the end, I will send you a PDF. All you have to do is send me a message and I will give you the PDF through via Messenger, unless you're on Facebook, and just send me a message and I will post the link there. Okay, or on YouTube. Pardon me. I'm not used to being on all of these channels yet. So thank you for your patience. We're going to start with this one idea right now. And it's a Byron Katie quote that I just love. My poor clients, or my lucky clients, get to hear this all the time. And I'm going to read the quote to you in entirety. It says, I am a lover of what is, not because I'm a spiritual person, but because it hurts when I argue with reality. We can know that reality is good just as it is, because when we argue with it, we experience tension and frustration. And this is what happens with so many people. You know, they argue, they go, oh, my husband, my mom, my dad, right? Right now we may be living with older parents or dealing with our older parents. We may have young, our adult children or young children. I'm kind of like in this right now, I'm the older person in the equation. And at the start of the pandemic, I moved in with my daughter's family and with the grandgirls. So right now, my daughter's the one kind of in the middle, and I'm, got my routine, and then there's the house routine, and an interesting thing happened that now my sister has moved in because she sold her home and she's moving on to the property. She's building her own place out here. And we live in a beautiful little town, and so right now we have this kind of convergence of routines, and there's this discussion about whose routine is better or not better, and what works and what's not working, and everybody's doing that. But I have been in the situation where since 2005 that I really haven't been in my own place. I have kind of been laid on top of somebody else's system, meaning there was a time that I was an apartment manager for, 20 years. And so my living situation was dependent upon my employment, and my habits and everything got set up, and the way I lived and the way I had to conduct everything was in relation to my job and a little higher level. Like, right, I couldn't let my patio get messy. There's certain things I couldn't do because I had so much more attention. Well, it made it easier to then when I moved in with my business partner to start a business and moved into her home, and she had a great big home, but she had a particular way of doing things. She had a routine, she had her standards, and I had to adjust myself to those standards. Well, I was already adjusted there, right? So I learned to be flexible and learned how to take care of myself. So I'm already very comfortable with that. And I've had this exact conversation with my sister on don't argue with what is, just accept it and find out what's working for you. What's set up here is perfect for her. For my daughter, she's doing things that work for her and her family. And who are we, right? Because we had to figure out what worked for us. So we had to reject somebody else's idea of what the right thing to do was, right? So how can we reject that idea of what somebody else's idea is and do what's right for us? It's to not reject the idea, but to focus on what is right for you rather than be in that disagreement. And this is a big key piece. Okay. So I'm just going to go through the notes here. So if you're in this situation where it seems like there's a lot that you can't change, you're unhappy and things are not working, congratulations. Congratulations, because change does not happen until there's a level of discomfort. We're just made that way. Okay. We fall into our routine and the brain wants to do what is easy. So what it does is it turns everything into internal systems and habits, and we start doing things by default rather than intentionally. So the thing that we start doing by default is easier based on the past, what worked for us in the past. But then as we grow and our needs change, we start thinking about the future. And in between those two is some discomfort. Now, back to when I was an apartment manager back in the olden days, and I've done this work much longer than I've done apartments, but it just seems like such a good analogy that all change is uncomfortable. Okay. Even, I noticed this, like if people were moving into my apartments and it didn't matter if they were moving in because of divorce or there'd been some loss in their life, or if they had moved in and because they were moving to start a new job or a new relationship or that fresh start. And there's a lot of hope and optimism. Every one of them went through a period of discomfort. There was stumbling. There had to be some new negotiations happening. Nobody slept good at first in the new place. The new sights and sounds and smells, and everybody everybody, every one of them injured their toe or bumped their car. There was something that they had to do because they were so, still so ingrained in the old way of being. The body hadn't caught up yet. Okay. So instead of arguing with it, what I tell people is this. And even if you find yourself in a situation that's not comfortable, is just accept, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, basically, right? You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That for a little while, you have to be a little extra awake, a little aware. And we're going to talk more about this towards the end, but you have to set up sometimes some new routines. As a kid, we moved a lot growing up for different reasons. But my dad was kind of like, it might be because of work or we had a family situation, but it's usually going after a routine. And so, or going after an opportunity. And I asked my mom one time, with 5 kids, and anytime we moved, we could get set up really quickly. And I said, how are you able to do that? I feel like I could walk into your house at any time and I know exactly where everything is, right? It didn't matter which house it was, because she had had a system set up for how to set up, right? She knew how the kitchen needed to look, what worked for her in the bathroom, and she replicated what worked. Okay, but she could also adjust, meaning, hey, if she always set up her coffee maker and every other place she lived, the one place she could put it is to the right of the sink. Well, guess what? In this house, you have to put it to the left, or you have to put it on the counter behind you. And so she could make the small adjustments, but nothing too radical. Everything else could softly adjust with it. And so I said, well, that's good. And she said, but it comes down to this. You just take your roots with you. And that is so powerful, because we go and we feel disconnected and rootless, and we have no foundation, base of foundation. And we're going to talk about how can you create that within you. But this isn't what's really stopping people. Okay. So what she was talking about was really not where the coffee maker sat and the organization of the plates and how the towels should be stacked. But the roots to her meant what kept the family working. And she was a big believer in order and beauty. Okay. If it was not orderly, it wasn't beautiful. It couldn't be beautiful unless there was order. And so those being really high values for her as a means of taking care of her family. If those things are established, then everything else would flow from there. And this is a clue. All these little stories, these little homilies I'm giving you, they are all pointing to something greater. So pay attention to the way I'm telling these little stories, okay? So on the blocks, what's stopping us is very often we argue with what's happening. My house is a mess, or my husband's a slob. I try to keep the house clean, but the kids mess it up, right? Or, I want to get a new job, but these employers, the way the job market is, the way, there's so much competition. There's all of these other forces outside of us. And so we worry about our money, or we go, our credit card debt, or this or that, right? And we get frustrated with it. And, we need to understand this, that please become aware of just what is. Just come into that observer mode without all of that internal feedback of fussing and judging about what it is. Be quiet and do like an inventory and observe and notice what you've created. Now, here's what's important. Everything that's created has been created for a good reason. It's just not serving you anymore. Remember what I said at the very start? It's just no longer serving you. And what you're observing, what you're seeing, is actually just a very small part of a greater creation. Right? So all you're seeing is less than 1% of what could be of your own potential, right? Of the greater thing. And you can only see through a little teeny lens. And that lens is like so small. And it's all based on your past. It's a lens that you're trying to look through, like all your past experiences. You're trying to look to the future. Now, being able to look at the past is a very powerful thing, but it's not a useful tool for creating the future. And this is not what's stopping you, but you need to be aware of this, okay? Because very often we're trying to go, well, I used to be like this. I used to be able to do that, right? But I can't anymore, or things are too different, or this is stopping me. And you need to just understand that you have created this, okay? So come back, and even though, wow, I don't like this creation, you have to look at it and say, this is my creation, and I bless it. So right now, I just want to invite you to take a second and think about what's coming up for you as I'm talking about this. Like, what is chaotic, or what's not working, or what's giving you a sense of overwhelm in your life right now? Tune into that. Right? And right now, just go ahead and make this statement. Take a second and think about it. And you might break it down. And I would say to break it down in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That gets you more into logical versus the emotional part. And if you don't want to just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you could make a list of what you're experiencing. Number 1, I'm not sleeping good. Number 2, money's inconsistent, or I don't know where the next money's coming from. Number 3, there's anger and overwhelm, or people are not getting along, right? Whatever it is, just whatever you're observing your reality, make a note of it, okay? Now, without judging it, without saying it's good or bad, just simply look at what you have created and bless it. This is my creation, and I bless it. Ooh. I'll let you say that out loud. Right. There's probably that goes, no, but it's horrible. I didn't create it. I didn't create the pandemic. I didn't create any of this. But you've created your part of it. We're part of a greater consciousness, right? We don't know where we are in this. We don't know what part of us has created it, but we must have on some degree, otherwise we wouldn't be experiencing it. Okay, so just acknowledge it. Now, with my client, she's going through a situation and she's going, I'm just so tired and worn out, and I don't have the energy, and I'm not getting the rest, but I should be eating. I should be doing this or this or this, but the house, but that, but my husband, right? And there was just this stuff going on. And I said, well, you just need to acknowledge that you're just going to feel bad for a while. You don't have the same baseline of at the level of health where you were even a year ago or 2 years ago, except that you just don't feel good right now. Okay. That right now you're not going to operate at 100%. And what did I say? Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So if you're noticing that you're overweight, like I got to tell you, I was so proud. I'd lost a lot of weight earlier this year. And then when the COVID, I fell out of my good habits. And now I'm back to where I was. And I've got to start all over again. And so I had to look at my Buddha belly and say, oh, this is my creation. I don't know why I created it. I don't know what purpose it's serving me. I don't know what I thought I was doing with that behavior. I only know I bless my body. It is what it is right now. I'm aware of it, and I'm going to make a new decision. That's what you have to come to. I'm aware of it. I've created it. I don't know why I created it. You got to just acknowledge that you've created it. This is your creation. Bless it. Don't argue with it. Okay? Bless it. But here's and if we tell the truth about this, there are actually a few things that are within your control in life, right? I mean, there's actually very few things. But if you focus on what you can control, it will change everything. And the things that we can control are, number one, what we think, how we talk, and what we act upon. And we're going to go into this a little deeper, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what really stops us and stops everyone. And it's our idea of what we should have, what we should be doing, or what who we should be, right? We have all these ideas, and that is really what's stopping us. Okay, when we're in that should, ought to, have to, or hey, we could have, well, that creates guilt and shame, but not solutions, right? So how can we think about this? Now, I want to give a shout out to a wonderful book called Be Brilliant, How to Be Brilliant, Michael Hepler. And I will put that in the comments and give you a link to that. Really, really, really love this. Okay. And I love the one idea that he has, like, yeah, you're not going to argue about it. He said, but whatever it is, just say, yeah, it could be a bit better. One, speak positively about it. Make the decision that, hey, this is going to change. So how can we change our thinking? Our thinking can actually start with how we talk about it. Okay. So he says, hey, if someone says, how are you doing? Don't go, could be better. It's Monday. Oh, it's Friday. It's Tuesday. Or, people, the world, traffic, all that complaining. And he says, just say it's brilliant. It's brilliant. But the way that he says to talk to yourself about what your experience is like, hey, if there's not enough money, to simply say to yourself, to turn away from that negative talk, which is I don't have enough money, because your brain goes, yep, and it shuts down and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We all know that, but we don't really know how to do anything about it. So instead, he says, just say, I could do with a bit more money. I could do with a bit more money. Okay. And we're going to talk about how could you make a shift once you go into there, because you don't know how to have a new thought. You don't know how to take a new action. You don't know how to get a new result, because if you did know how, you would be doing it. True or not true? If you knew how, you would change, right? It's not everything you think it should be. It's not everything you thought you could have done. And it's not everything that you ought to do. Because if you knew, you would. So just go ahead and let yourself be okay for the moment in not knowing. And that's going to be the beginning of all knowledge. Yeah, it's about to get good, y'all. Hey, be sure and put your comments below. How's this hitting you so far? Does this make sense? Right. Okay. So instead of creating this guilt and shame, what do we want? We want to create solutions. So by focusing on what is and what could be better, it directs your mind to create a solution and look for ways to improve upon the solution. So even if, let's say, you said, you know what, this is it. I want to manifest $10,000 a month. And then your first thing is, you manifested $500 a month. You've manifested $500. Look at that and go, wow, that's good. That's good. Now I can do with a bit more, because my goal is $10,000, right? That's good. Just a bit more. What could I do to be better? So now we're having a new conversation. What worked? What didn't work? What are we doing? We're using the power of both sides of your brain. We're using this conversation with yourself. When you start asking new questions, this creates new thinking. When we have new thinking, we start taking new action. And that's the magic of this. It's so simple, but we get caught up. Okay. So most people don't know what to do. Okay. They don't know what to do. But the problem is they aren't aware of what they're doing now that's creating the current situation. So they don't know what's working or not working. They only know the results that they're feeling. Okay. So with my client, she was having some challenges with her energy level, feeling overwhelmed with some things happening in the house. There's some challenges in the relationship because husband also got laid off from work because of COVID. And then, he's working on stuff, but he's not being the help that she needs, not really partnering. And so there was some other things going on there. But we started with, okay, just acknowledge that you're just not going to feel good. Okay, that this is your base, right? And she go, okay. And I said, and how long have you married to this man? How long have you known him? And she said, yeah. I said, well, that's the way he is, right? And she said, yes. So I have a what I call a 4-part statement where I help people kind of disconnect from that emotion. And what's at the bottom of it every time is you're doing what you're doing because it fills a need. You will stop doing it when it no longer fills the need. So we jumpstart the brain into completing the negative cycle using this. And then by tuning into what it is that you need, we consciously create it. First with the 4-part statement, and then next with the 1 command process, which we're not going to have time to go into all of it here, but I'm going to tell you how you could experience the power of that with me for free. And we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. Okay. So we did that. And then with that start, I said, so what else? You're not happy about your husband. What else? She said, well, I really need to sleep more. I'm so tired, but she's not giving herself permission to really take the rest that she needs. And the other, she was having, she kept saying over and over, I ought to eat better. I ought to eat better. I should be eating better. It's not good. And that's probably what's making me feel bad. And I said, and I asked her, how does it go with dinner? And when you have small kids, there's what the kids eat and there's what you eat, because kids kind of go through their phases of only eating certain things, but our default, we wind up eating like the kids, which is not good for the adult body. That is not enough fuel. Okay. Kids need a different kind of fuel than an adult. And so I said, do you have a dinner plan? And she's like, no. And I said, I would guess that every day is kind of a new day at your house. She said, yes, it is. I never know what's going on. Every day it's get up. We got to go. We got to make stuff happen. And she's always pushing, trying to make stuff happen. And I asked her if she'd ever watched the show, Super Nanny. And she said, yes, she laughed, right? And was like, well, none of us are going to be Joe, but there's something Joe does that's really powerful, that if more people incorporated this into their life, it's a thing that actually we got trained with, but we forget because of habits taking over. We go into default. Then this shifts our identity. Joe Dispenza has an incredible book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And he talks about that every day we're drinking out of the same cup, and we're going to the same path in the bathroom. We're taking the same, 18 steps, and we're doing everything in the same routine. And that's reinforcing the version of us that was created in the past, rather than the version of ourselves that we must become in order to create a new future. So powerful. And so by waking up to that, and taking some of that friction off of the willpower and start ingraining new habits, then it's going to be easier to have the energy and the time to focus, right? You're going to be able to focus, you're going to have time, you'll be able to dedicate it. But if every day's a new day and the habit's taken over and you're not giving yourself the bandwidth. Okay, so what Joe does in Super Nanny is when she's establishing order with the kids, the first thing she does is this is our getting up routine. This is the time for this. And here's the time for, here's the routine for going to bed. And here's what we do at these certain times, just like at class. So at 7:00, we're getting up and then we're going to go wash our face and brush our teeth, and then we're going to get our clothes on. And she has the list out. Okay. And so that was my suggestion. I said that would actually help the kids. And it's, hey, children, it's time for this now. They're seeing it and it's reinforced. For her, I suggested that she use her phone and to, one, start with noticing what her default routine is and noticing how she's feeling. So every day in her little memo, she's saying, okay, it's 7:15. I'm having breakfast and I made myself coffee and I just ate the rest of the kids' cereal and I had a couple of bites of toast, but then ran out the door. And then I was going to go to the store, but instead of this, I went and did that, right? Not doing these basic things. And then to say on a scale of 1 to 10, how good do you feel, right? What level of, what are you noticing? And I wanted her to track that for a week. Okay. So then by the end of our conversation, here's what we came down to was this. Number one, just acknowledge that you need more help. It's not working. You're going to be uncomfortable. And your number one job is to get yourself situated so that you have the time and energy to focus on what you want. Okay. She needs to eat good, but before she can eat good, which is part of her self-care, she needs to see how she's doing it. And then then she can look at that and say, hey, this is actually the days I felt good, the times I got the good sleep. Here's what I did. The minute you start creating a measurement and you start observing it, it's so much easier to make a shift. Okay. So then just in the conversation, we continued on. I said, so do you think if you felt more rested and you felt more nourished, if those two things were, I said, I would guess that the times that because she didn't really like how she was interacting with her husband. She just would feel overwhelmed and she felt like she was being, a harpy, which is not the word, it was a B word, but she didn't want to be that person, but she would feel herself saying, she'd hear herself saying these things and acting this way. And she knew it was productive, but she couldn't stop it, even though she was frustrated with her husband. And I was like, I wonder how much your husband has unconsciously trained you to act that way. I wonder how much he is trained in you to do that. But also, and she's like, wow, I never even thought about that. And I said, well, the way to think about it is like sometimes people need that outside enforcer because they don't have it within them. And they kind of assign that role to someone else to be the one who pushes. And so somehow in their relationship, I don't know, it might have got set up for him. Their tacit agreement, that it became, their unconscious agreement became a tacit agreement through their behaviors, right? Was I'm going to be the driver. You don't have to be the driver. I'm going to keep you on track because everything's overwhelming to you. So my job is to be the one with the stick. And what she realized is she did not want to have that job anymore. No, that's Carolyn. Carolyn, I'm recording, honey. Thank you. Go ahead and shut the door, baby. Thank you.
I put meal on the door.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye. Thank you. Shut the door, please. Thank you. Yeah, things outside of us. That's Carolyn. That's my little joy right there. But I said, if you're tired and you haven't eaten well, you're pushing yourself. And then because you feel pushed, you start pushing other people. And she said, oh my God, yes. So what do? Come back to good, become aware of what you're eating. Don't feel good. You need a little more space for that. What 2 things do you need? Better food, some rest. She would like more support, but the behavior, the interaction was actually stopping it. So by taking care of herself first, that would give her more energy and resources. And then she would actually be able to be more thoughtful in the way that she's communicating with her husband and could start getting different results. Do you see how this starts working? It's really very, very powerful. So we started working on this. So they don't know what to do. But the problem isn't, they don't know what the problem is, but they're not aware of what they're doing now and what's really creating that current situation. So they don't know what's working or not working. They only know the results of how they feel. So how can we change this? Okay. Number one, you've got to think from a higher level. I'm going to make this bigger for you. You've got to be able to think from a higher level. And right now, in our ordinary level of thinking, which is called beta, when we're looking through this little narrow thing, looking through the lens of the past, we're looking through everything that matches our preconceived notions, all the systems, habits, and protocols we set in. It's all matching our inner belief about ourselves, about who we are, and what we're capable of doing. We've got to change that. How? Oh my gosh, that's so much. Well, we have to start with some of the smaller things, but can we agree on this? Coming back all the way to the very beginning where we said, this is your creation. So what does that make you? A creator. Please remember this, that in all circumstances, no matter what you're experiencing, whether you like it or not, whether you love your creation or you hate your creation, or your creation just doesn't serve you anymore, that you are a creator. But you have been hiding out and acting as if you're a reactor, or that you're the effect of, and that is what's creating, that's what's causing these effects to arrive in your life. Okay. You're in your wrong internal position. You are not in your right role as a creator. And it can be first kind of like inspiring and exciting to think about being a creator. Like, oh yeah, I'm the creator. I'm a master of my universe. It's like, oh darn, my universe sucks. That must be a terrible creator, or might not be worthy, or you have some conditioning or training that's stopping you. So we've got to pause that. We've got to go into a higher level of thinking, and we have to be able to get a new vision and create new feelings. And the way to do that is with the really incredible one command process. And we go to the 6 steps of theta. We're able to make the decision about what we want, address any areas of concern, and command for it from a higher state of being. And we're actually commanding our own mind, and not only our mind, then we're bringing in our 3 levels of intelligence, our mind, our heart, and the brain that lives in our stomach. These 3 states of being, we're bringing them into alignment, and we're able to very quickly identify what is stopping us and what those hidden demotivators are, or where we might have what we call a blank set, where we don't have any experience to relate it. We can't really access information that is a key piece of information to move us forward. That's called a blank set. So we're able to address that. And it starts with a really powerful statement. The statement is, I don't know how. I don't know how. And this is the basis of the one command statement. I don't know how, and you state what you want. I only know I do now, and I am fulfilled. Then you create a new framework for your conversation. So powerful self-talk attracts powerful and positive outcomes. So if you're having an internal argument, or you're griping in your mind, or you're griping to yourself, you're keeping your opinion to yourself, right? You're trying to, but people know. They know if you're judging them, or if you disapprove, or if you don't like them. People know. That really cannot be faked. People know this, okay? And they may be having an internal argument with you. And this is a little secret strategy right here. We're just all trying to figure it out. We don't know, all the motivations, but usually behind all those motivations, there is a positive intention. And the intention is to somehow be safe and loved, or to get their needs met. They're just trying to figure it out. Now, there are people with negative intentions. I'm not going to say there's not bad actors in the world. I'm going to talk about most of the world. And then even if you're dealing with the bad actors in the world and the people with the negative intention, bullies and and all these others, at the bottom of there's pain. There's loss. I know the secret to every bully, every creep. I know what's at the bottom of there. So they have no power over me. Back in the day when people would come in yelling and screaming and threatening, I used to run towards them because I knew their secret. I knew how out of control they actually felt. And by being the one who had control and had the solution and had the rules, I was able to very quickly, in my capacity to be in my own inner authority, calm them and take control, but do it in a way that created incredible, powerful results. Well, that skill is translated into my ability to deal with our inner bullies and all these inner dynamics and unresolved issues we have inside. But we have to start with a new conversation and a new starting point of that conversation. And the starting point is, I wonder how this could be better. I wonder what it would be like, right? I wonder. And with the assumption that there is a solution here. So start with the assumption and then allow yourself to wonder how it could be better. And when we allow ourselves to start with that assumption that there is absolutely a solution, there's a way to do it, we just don't know how, but I wonder how I could get my needs met by and still accomplish the things I want to accomplish. Because a lot of times people want to make money, but they assume that it could cost them their relationship. They want to make money, but their deep sense of shame or not enoughness is stopping them. And so they never allow their creation to get out in the world or put themselves out there to even find out if people want it. I mean, a lot of people spend a lot of time building products and services and websites, and they never launch it. And I have to tell you, I have a lot of personal experience in that area, and I broke through and I figured out the secret. And it starts with this new assumption and being willing to look objectively at my creation, bless it, and commit to improving upon it. This will change everything. So then, as you organize and improve upon one thing to take action on, right? Then, like the sun, things in your life will start falling into place and unnecessary things will start to fall away. And this is just like my mom's kitchen. And every time that we moved, that absolutely is the case. And it might have started with this getting order in this one area, but holding it in alignment with a value. Was this helpful? I'd love to get your comments. And because you stayed at the end, be sure and send me the notes, and I will make sure that I share those with you. Now, I want to share with you something very, very special. I have a class that I'm starting on the 11th of November, and it's called the 11-11 Club. It's actually going to only have 11 to 12 members. I've only got a few slots left, but I still have some available. And if you want to either work with me or apply for this 11-11 Club, where we are doing exactly what I talked about, we are going to focus on one main area in your life. We're going to find that one thing. We're going to make that shift, that mindset shift. We're going to commit to having a new conversation and then focus on the right actions. Okay. And then in the process, we're doing this for 90 days. Science has shown if you will focus on one main thing for 90 days at a certain time period, like break your work down into smaller bites, you're going to accomplish much more. Then with that clear intention and your energy freed up, you're going to be able to attract more of what you want, and the things that no longer serve you will fall away. And this is the way it's set up. So simple. 2 phone calls a month. We're going to do it November, December, and January. And then there's a personal 15-minute check-in with me every week. Yeah, on your personal goals. Because the other thing is, you must have accountability in order to truly move the needle. Otherwise, life gets in the way and we wind up doing what's in front of us instead of what we wanted to do. Okay, so the best way to either work with me personally or to apply for the 1111 Club is to go to bit.ly/Big Vision Coach, and that takes you to my appointment calendar. Hey, here's what we do. What we do is we first look at what is the outcome you desire. We get in alignment with your values. We take a look at where you are now, what's the block or limitation, where you want to be. And then I help to format the right commands. And there's a lot of personal coaching that goes with this. Then we lay out what your morning routine would look like, and what you want to, holding what it is that you want to accomplish. And then I teach you how to do this for yourself daily and do the commands. And then this very special end of the day appreciation process. Then I'm going to walk you through how to format the commands. And you do get a copy of the 1 command book if you aren't familiar with this, and then the action guide that supports it, that answers all the facts and gives examples and takes you through some exercises. But then we take you through and we activate it and really set in everything that you're commanding for into your 3 neurological centers. We actually activate your deeper knowing at a cellular level so that this becomes your habit and system of being very quickly. This is an amazing experience. And but I walk you through this, and we're going to be focusing on this starting November 11th. It's going to be going to January 20th. And like I said, it's 2 calls a month, but then weekly check-in with me. And then I give you tools and templates to help you meet whatever your one goal is, that one thing, right? And Gary Keller talks about this in his incredible book called The One Thing, that if there's one thing that you focus on in your life, that if you change this one thing, it changes everything. That's what we're going to be focusing on. So this is based on experience, the 10,000 clients I've worked with, that was able to work with the incredible Asara Lovejoy and set up a worldwide organization in a very short time, where we had students all over the world and trained over 500 people in a 3-year period. And we just had a couple of people in the office, and we all did it just kind of organically. So we have some practical work and business and career experience. The royal me, that I'll be sharing with you, but also it's going to be the power of the group and us learning from each other. So I hope that you will join us. If this was beneficial, once again, please be sure and give me a thumbs up. I'd love to get your comments and feedbacks. If you've got any question, be sure and type it in. I'll be paying attention to this. But for now, I think that this is plenty. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time. And until next time, this is Kathryn Perry, the Big Vision Coach, and I witness your mastery. Bye-bye, everybody.